Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and the presidential market of tweets. We're following the White House account very closely. We'll now be reporting on every single thing that they say because that is what is most relevant to everything in the world right now. Loaded up for discussion today. We've got Trump delaying all tariffs apart from on China. The S&P soared 10%. Bitcoin is back to 81K. We'll discuss everything that's been going on, trying to make sense of the variety of things during the course of today's show. We've also got a little bit of look forward to the highly anticipated Wayfinder's prompt token to begin trading today with OKX listing. It is connected to the token Prime, and we'll explain a little bit of the history there, why we think is interesting, and a little bit of the token side, a bit of speculation too. So we've got the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as well as usual, plus a general discussion on how we think things are going. Got Legendary in the co-host seat with me today. But just before we get to the main stuff, just a reminder, friends, and nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is very, very risky. We do not know anything for sure, so please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Thursday. It's the 10th of April. Some people feeling a bit better about themselves today. Is that right? Is that wrong? How are you feeling?
GM Jim doing pretty well. On the one hand, I'm pretty happy with my stock buying action 2 days ago. I think I shared it on the show, shared on the Discord. I've been buying up some MSCI All Country World, so global ETF, basically global market index. That aged pretty surprisingly well, to be honest. On the one hand, and on the other hand, Juice Cleanse is still going well. I mean, Adam is not here with us. I'm still in a very good mood. I have a yellowish juice for today because Oxy yesterday was commenting that my orange juice is assigned to buy Bitcoin, which clearly was. And then I was thinking, do I go for the green juice today, which I also have that typically comes later in the afternoon, but I was like, nah, I'm not feeling green juice. I want to send the weird signal. Hence, the yellow juice was chosen.
Interesting. Okay, so you're trying to be a bit more non-revealing with your juice selections at the moment.
Yes, that is the key takeaway.
Okay, that's fine. One of the things I'm interested in at the moment is in terms of engagement. I'm noticing two things. Remember, we talk a lot about on the show, and we're going to get to the main headlines and stuff in a second, but we talk a lot about how the media numbers are kind of indicative and revealing as to how the market is moving. And one just observation, maybe this is obvious to people, is disaster is really, really good for media. And I think that's probably an obvious point for a lot of people. As people know, media is skewing towards kind of aggressively clickbait style content in order, and especially if something terrible has happened, I think that grabs people's attention in a stronger way than if everything is fine or if things are just not much is happening. But interestingly, like the numbers yesterday, I'm curious to see what our numbers are like today because the last 2 days have been really big, like really, really big. And today is a good day, right? Relative to those 2 days. And big, and you know, you're going to go into the details of how good a day it was in the last 24 hours because of the way that the stock market moved and the way crypto kind of bounced back really aggressively. But it almost feels like it's just like a bit of a reset. It's like the goodness of it is wasted because of how bad the other stuff was. And the energy and the excitement and the concentration people needed to deal with the negative stuff is kind of dissipated. And now that it's like a little bit back up, it's just like, okay, cool, we need to rest. Might not necessarily be engaging with anything for a little bit. That's just me looking at her in the background, watching our headline numbers across the various ways we go. Because obviously we go on YouTube, we go on X Video, we go on audio, Twitter Spaces as well. So we're casting everywhere at the same time. That's my instinctive feeling. Legendary, I'm curious what your thought is there.
It's quite interesting, huh? That's always when something bad happens that media is getting the most attention. Like I've been thinking, is it just because of the severity of the headline? Is it because people are curious to see what the two of us or the 3 or 4 or 5 of us are specifically saying on that topic? But then on the other hand, and it's something we touched on yesterday, that it's also confusing me when it comes to consuming media, attending events and cycles. Like you said it, when there's a bull market, everyone wants to go to all the events, which is something that I also do not understand, because this is the time to not go to any event. It's just the time to lock in and make life-changing gains if you can do so, because you literally can miss out on 6 figures, 5 figures, whatever, by just not being at home. And actually, when there's a bit of a lull in the market or sideways market and people are building, they are more interested in sharing what they're working on. That's like the more productive way to have an event, because otherwise the conversation will be like, did you see the run of the night? Did you buy this and that? Instead of, oh, this is what this company is working on. So these two things, when it comes to attention in media, have always been confusing me.
I love it. I love being able to see and feel that engagement back, because it's starting to be really meaningful. Like, we don't really track it. We don't write the numbers down every single day, but you can just feel it. And I think, as you said, the first thing is people need a break after multiple kind of stressful days. And I do think the last few days have been incredibly stressful for people, and they just need to like have a deep exhale. Maybe the market will do the same now that it's bounced back. Um, and the second thing, as you said, when it comes to events, do the opposite to what people are doing. I remember in January when I had gone to Dubai, I couldn't leave my room. Like, I was basically so busy fielding, I don't know, different opportunities, and we're very fortunate to be in that position. But it was impossible to get out. And I think if you position yourself well in these more quiet period times, it means that in those busier times you can kind of just feel the inbound. Whereas, as exactly as you said, in the quiet times is the times you want to go out. So basically, do the opposite of what everyone does. Kind of like in the market, you're meant to buy the red candles and sell the green ones, rather than getting caught up in the hype. And kind of the event stuff is exactly the same, I think. So interesting observations there. Talking of events, we just booked Dubai as part of what I have already, and as part of this general feeling where, like, I think people were kind of questioning whether they're going to go because the market is down. It's like, guys, it is literally the best time, because that is when, as you said, you get a chance to mix with people and chat specific product, get to know people in advance of times when everyone is in a better position. So those are some general musings on the media numbers, engagement, and how to prepare yourself moving forward. Let's get prepared for today's show, though. I want to get you into the main headlines and the price action as usual, starting with the majors. We've got Bitcoin up 6%. That was the jump after Trump's news yesterday. It's just at 81.6K. ETH is up 9% to, it went past 1.6K briefly, then came back down to 1.5 something. XRP is up 10% to $2. BNB is up 3 to 576. Solana is up 8% to $114. On the meme coin side of things, we have Doge up 7% to 15 cents. Pepe is up 6%. Trump is up 5%. Bonk is up 8%. Fartcoin, we keep going back to Fartcoin over and over on the show, up 38% in the last 24 hours. That is now at 72 cents. It is up 83% in the last week. That is astonishing. I'm almost certain that is the best performing asset potentially in the world. Maybe there's some other meme coins that had much, much lower market caps that have done more than that. But out of the kind of more established ones, arguably the best performing asset in the whole world in the last 7 days. SPX, Murad's coin is up 12% too. WIF is up almost 10% as well. Pengu's up 5%. That's nice to see. On the AI side, we had AI16Z also up 22%. MOG is up 23%. And I want to check in with our favorite old agent AIXBT, just up 3%. So not a big move on that side. Getting into the headlines themselves, as we mentioned before, we have a couple of headlines today. Number one, we're going to be talking about Trump's decision to delay all the tariffs apart from on China. The S&P soared 10%. Bitcoin was back to 81K. We'll be dealing with all of the drama and thinking through the implications shortly. We'll also talk a little bit about the highly anticipated Wayfinder prompt token to begin trading today with the OKX listing. You'll remember this is connected to the Prime token, which is up 6% on the day, but that is down 86% in the last year. And so we'll be just diving into a bit of the tokenomics there about how the team are launching Prompt token, whilst they also had the Prime token, there was some staking involved. What was going on? We'll try to explore some of that because I think that'll be interesting to people. Aside from that, some notable price action. The top base DEX Aero is up 21% as well, and Kaito is actually, despite the rest of the timeline kind of moving, price action moving forward, Kaito is hovering around 80 cents, which is an all-time low for Kaito. So still excellent product, still excellent team, but the price action is kind of settled down now from that respect. Legendary, anything we need to know on the NFT side?
Yeah, quickly taking a look at the NFT market. Unsurprisingly, there is a lot of green as the market has been pumping as a whole. However, it is not to the same extent as ETH has been moving up. Just to name a few collections, Bored Apes are now above 14, ETH again at 40.2 ETH. Pudgy Penguins managed to break through the 9 ETH floor, sitting at 9.22 ETH. However, one of the biggest movers of the last 24 hours actually are the Taproot Wizards. They are back at a 0.15 BTC floor, and that means they are up 11% over the last 24 hours.
Shout out to the Bored Ape community. Gosh, that is the strongest. I mean, I know ETH is down a lot, but no incentives, no nothing, just strong collectible NFT performance there, I think. Getting into the rest of the roundup to get you up to speed, 21 shares filed for a Dogecoin ETF. This news, I guess, in some ways, is getting a bit old. I'm sure lots of these coins are going to end up with ETFs, whether they have any demand or not. That is the real question that will come later on. In big news, Magic Eden announced the acquisition of mobile trading platform Slingshot. I guess in line with their vision to try to become the home of all digital asset trading, not just NFTs or ordinals, which they've become most known for, or they were most known for initially. The SEC approved options trading on spot Ethereum ETFs. Pakistan plans to allocate part of its surplus electricity to Bitcoin mining. Reuters reports. I wonder if that has anything to do with the appointment of former Binance CEO CZ as crypto consultant or whatever role he's taken up there. That's a pretty cool thing to do with a country's surplus electricity. And then finally, the World Food Program USA announced it's begun accepting 80 plus cryptocurrencies for donations, providing a bit more utility for your coins. That is the Web3 Roundup to get you up to speed with everything that has been going on the last 24 hours. We're going to get into the main stuff in just a little bit. We're going to be talking Trump's crazy moves over the last few days, the big one yesterday, and here's some specific takes from us on that. But before we get there, Legendary, what's catching your attention from the rest of the market?
I think the Pakistan news is interesting. They do not only want to use the surplus electricity to mine BTC, they also want to use that to power AI data centers on top of that. So going for both of the biggest trending things, so to speak. And it will be interesting. I think, let me paraphrase this. If you have surplus electricity and you go through your decision tree thinking, what will you do with that? It's cool that mining BTC is now becoming a thing for governments to say, yep, that's a reasonable thing that we could do with our surplus electricity, instead of being like trying to sell it to a neighboring country or on the international energy market. And that is pretty, I find it significant. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot if you just look at the news in the two lines, but I think the thinking process that went into this, behind that, to arrive at this conclusion on a country level, is intriguing.
That's a great question. I'm just asking ChatGPT, literally. I guess that is what they do, right? What do governments do with surplus electricity otherwise? Because if it isn't this, why would everyone not do that? Number one, ChatGPT says export it to neighboring grids. So if the country or region is connected to other power grids, you can export it and you can sell it, I guess, and it can be a way to make money. But yeah, I mean, this is maybe a more direct way of turning that energy into currency very, very directly. Interesting. Yeah, I kind of like that as well. Anything else, Sledge? What did you think of the Magic Eden Slingshot acquisition? I've been thinking a little bit about these digital asset trading platforms, and I think one thing that people have realized is being just one of these things is not enough in the end. That's why you see marketplaces trying to expand out. And you see people like even Pump Fun, although they're super profitable, if you are profitable in one particular area, it seems like the natural thing to do is to continue to expand and expand and expand. And so you on the Solana side, you've got things like Camino, which was initially just like a lending platform, expanding out to then being a place where you're going to be able to trade. Radium was one thing, then it became another thing. Pump Fun was a token launcher first. Now it's also a DEX as well. So I think these things are going to continue, and specifically on the marketplace side as well. I feel like with Blur already kind of coming out, being probably fully diluted at this point or almost fully diluted, and because of the way NFT royalties went, and because of OpenSea's plight, although they still haven't launched their own token, I get a sense that the business model for the pure marketplace might not be there in the way that it was, because it's just not doing the volume that it was back in 2021 whenever OpenSea got funded at the crazy valuation it was. And so it's not going to suffice just being a marketplace anymore. So you've got to get in on this this token action, which is why I guess they're trying to expand to purchase Slingshot as well. I'd be curious for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think we used to have this phase in the market, or we still have it, where if you have built an app, if you have built whatever protocol it is that you're working on, and it's significant enough, you want to expand to build your own L2. And this is how you try to foster growth, how you try to increase your valuation. And it now seems that this is like still a narrative that exists and is very much alive. Now, the other thing is you want to become the everything app. You want to have NFT trading, you want to have options trading, you want to have a swap inbuilt with whatever it is that you do. And it is the hyper competition. I feel like it's especially strong on Solana. Like we spoke about that on one of the shows. I think it's so prevalent on Solana because you had a couple like very insulated protocols that were very successful in what they do. And now that these different like stages of hype are over, or the hype is definitely lessened, it becomes intriguing, or it becomes the question becomes, what do you do next? How do you grow next? How can you like either integrate vertically or horizontally? And it's something that basically had happened on ETH already. Like we've seen this play out with multiple protocols spinning up their own bridges to bridge to L2s, then having bridge aggregators being built around that. So we've seen the same trajectory happening. And yeah, I can understand that Magic Eden is acquiring Slingshot and they want to integrate the trading aspect even stronger to become this one-stop shop. But as you also have said on one of the shows, it's difficult to be that, right? You're good for one thing, and this is why people like you. Nobody quite yet has managed to be like the all-encompassing crypto app for everything, because it's often like the specialized thing that attracts new users, and that often tied to a potential airdrop that goes with it, like OpenSea being the exception because they still don't have a token. But Hype was a very, very good example for that. And they built a fantastic product, but also had like the allure, or still have the allure of the token. And they are also trying to expand with the Hype EVM and get other protocols or other like sectors of economic activity in. So it makes sense that a lot of companies are following this trajectory, but I feel like it's extremely challenging to become the everything app.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very difficult thing. Just wanted to check one thing and then give people a heads up on something else that is going on super hot in the market. Just checking our audio is okay. We've had a couple of people commenting that it's low, whether it's today or just in general. Sometimes people thinking they're low. Maybe it's just we're just too chilled, Legendary. Like it's kind of a stressful market here. We need to maybe be a little bit more animated potentially. That's my one question. If you're having any audio issues, or if you think we're talking too low, tell us if it's us or maybe it's just our personalities. We've gotta do something about that. Legendary, you okay to change your personality for the duration of the show?
I don't think so. I'd rather stay authentic. We said the show is our layer of reputation, right?
I see. Okay. Well, they're saying it's better. They're saying it's better now that I've aggressively asked you to change your personality. Okay. The other thing I wanted to bring up to people is the Xcopy market. The Xcopy market is just on fire. Like there were multiple NFT Xcopy sales in the last 24 hours. We had Xcopy Empire things selling for 17 ETH. We got Xcopy RIP selling for 42.69 ETH. We had Xcopy Exposure selling for 33.33 ETH. Xcopy Gobshite selling for 29.84 ETH. These are all like quite, how would you describe it? Sought after editions. So they obviously have a higher price, and the price is usually dependent on the number, the edition number. I said on the show just a few days ago, right, that for the first time in a long time, I'm getting those OpenSea emails where people are bidding on my X copies. I've just got one of his old editions called a Saintless set. I've got a full set plus an extra one, and I'm routinely getting like, first it was 1.6 ETH offer, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, and it was 2, then it was 2.1, then it was 2.2. So yesterday, I think the price of those have gone up to 2.2 ETH. Obviously, ETH is like crashing out as well. So there's that to just keep in mind. But the key thinking there for me is digital assets. I'm almost more bullish on digital assets than I am on ETH. Like ETH can go up and ETH can go down, but I really do think that some of these digital assets mean something to people in a way that is way stronger than the currency itself. It's not cool to hold the particular currency. It is cool to be a part of a community where you collect certain things. I think that's the way the world, the normal world tracks. I think that's the way the digital world will track too. And so I think when ETH is this low, people are looking at whether it's Xcopy or whether it's punks, because there's been a lot of punk sales as well. I think they're really looking at that stuff and thinking this is undervalued relative to when, you know, the ETH price goes up, and it might be the same. So that's my perspective there. Ledge, want to give you a quick opportunity to come in, and then I know Funky wanted to say something before we get into the main headlines today and getting to this Trump madness.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we'll move to a state where we'll start to price that stuff natively in USDC.
I think people are already doing it, to be honest. I think that's why you're seeing increased price action now for Xcopy and punks, because people are looking at it and saying, this is cheap in dollars. I want to get this now. That's what I think. But I mean, I do appreciate as well, sometimes people are holding a lot of ETH. And there was actually a lot of punk sales when people were feeling rich, when they had a lot of ETH. And so there was like kind of a lot of people buying punks at like 120, 120K and 130K as well, because they'd made so much money in the bull market. And so you have that wealth effect sometimes as well. So I think you have two sets of buyers where it can get really hot when everyone's just made a ton of money, even if ETH is high, because they feel rich. Or you have it in this circumstance where, you know, the market's a bit more calm and / going down, and suddenly it looks very attractive in a dollar price. So I think those are the two circumstances where people start to find it attractive, but increasingly I think it will be the dollar side where people think that value is, or that's the way that it should be valued. So wanted to bring that up because Xcopy's been on fire. Funky, your hand, sorry, go on.
Do you think, one more thing, do you know what the big difference is though? If you go to the CryptoPunks website, right, you'll see the price in ETH, and then in brackets, you see the price in USD. So like you're already trained to see the USD price next to the ETH price, which I think is just significant from a user experience perspective. And you don't have that on OpenSea, for example. You go to Pudgy Penguins, you see there on 9.22 ETH, but you don't have a clear first and front page view of the USD price. And I do think that the way you display prices, obviously, and if you show like fiat plus crypto value next to one another, or if you just show fiat or just show crypto, makes a big difference as to how people will price it in their minds.
True. I think that is fair. Funky, your hand was raised. Did you want to come in for a point on the punks or anything that we were saying before? Welcome to the stage, my friend. What did you want to contribute?
GM, no, what I was going to say is don't you dare change. I think both you guys, your personalities are fine. And I had nothing wrong with the volume. Admittedly, as Steve pointed out on Coffee with Captain, I'm an 80-year-old geriatric old man who likes to listen to the space like it's radio. But you guys sounded fine to me. And in fact, one of my favorite things as of late, probably the last couple weeks, I love when Legendary just bursts in with his laughter. So I think you guys are doing a great job. Don't change your personalities. Just keep being who you are. Authenticity will always rule.
That was actually a conscious decision because I was muting myself when I was laughing for the longest time. Like I was literally hiding when I was laughing. I was like, nah, why am I doing this? Like, people can see on video that I'm laughing either way, so they should also be able to hear that.
That's actually hilarious. It's like thinking about the user experience to the extent where it's like, don't hear the emotions disrupt the show. Funky, did you want to come in? No, I think he's off. Okay, that's pretty funny. But don't leave out of that the fact that someone's got to make Legendary laugh in the first place. So I'm taking credit for that. So got to include that in the mix. Getting into the main headlines though, because ultimately the laughter is fine, but that's not why we're here. We're here to figure out what on earth is going on. Big news yesterday after a very it's been a roller coaster ride the last few days. Trump made some big decisions yesterday. Legendary, I'm going to just hand over to you. Set us up. What do we need to know about the tariffs and how they were? Some of them were suspended, some of them were not. What's the lowdown and what's the take here?
Absolutely. Global equity markets have experienced a historic pump yesterday following President Trump's unexpected or surprising decision to pause most tariffs for 90 days, with obviously the notable exception there being China. He took to Truth Social with this post: based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I'm hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125% effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period, which is the 10% base tariff that is now in effect for all other countries, with the exception of China. Markets have responded to that very, very strongly. S&P 500 has seen one of its strongest days, surged by 9.5%, which is typically how much the index makes on average per year. Dow Jones up 8%, NASDAQ up 12.2%. And linking to that, market enthusiasm, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent provided further context, stating that this tariff pause was always planned. Like, this was a strategic move planned by the administration, and they have designed this entire approach to expose China for what they are and put them in a weaker spot when it comes to the future negotiations. Apart from that, and apart from the stock market move in the States, the rest of the world has also reacted to this pretty positively. Japan's Nikkei was up 9%. Major indices in Europe were up significantly as well. The German DAX, the French CAC were up 5%, but they also have started to correct down a bit from that high or from that pump, but they are still up very significantly. Also, looking at the fear and greed index, we've seen extreme fear both on the crypto side yesterday as well as on the CNN business fear, greed and fear index, which was down to 3 on the score from 0 to 100. That has recovered as well. Taking another look at the 10-year Treasury yield, which is something we have covered on the last shows, because with the uncertainty in the market, that had gone up as high as 4.75%. This has now also corrected down a bit. The 10-year yield is at 4.3%. And generally, the market is liking that relief very much, and is liking that 90-day pause. And that is also extending to Polymarket. Just want to check in on some of the bets which we very regularly took a look at. One being US going into a recession in 2025. That was almost up to 70%, went as high as 66%, has now corrected down significantly, is quote unquote only at a 50% chance. Inversely, however, with the uncertainty that had risen, the chances that we've seen a rate cut by the Fed in May were also up as well. Now that has corrected down, and 85% of the market are thinking that there's not going to be a rate change in May. Only 12% see a 25 bips change or decrease, and only 3% see a 50 bips decrease. And remember that 50 bips decrease was as high as 10% at the start of the week when the market uncertainty was the highest.
Okay, good stuff. Excellent summary. The key question though, Legendary, is what's the take here? Like the turn was strong. Do you think that ultimately the turn was because of the bond market going too high? Was this always the plan? What's your take there first, and then maybe let's think about it moving forward.
Personally, I don't think this was always the plan. I think that the administration was a bit surprised by how strongly the markets have reacted. And there's also been commentary from people close to the White House who said that advisors were strongly suggesting that Trump is hitting the pause button on tariffs and is using this as a win to paint that narrative and to basically be able to celebrate all the green that we're seeing in the stock market that I'm sharing on screen. Because not only have we seen, right, that the entire market is up 10%, but especially for the tech companies who have suffered the most, like Apple is up 15%, Nvidia is up 19% on the day. That is a major recovery. I think the volatility is not going away, right? On the one hand, this is not an end of tariffs. This is a 90-day break. And there's going to be negotiating. There's going to be power struggles and power displays of power going on during this phase. And I just think, if I recall the last couple of shows, how often I said something is historical. This is a pump we've never seen since World War II. This is the biggest 2-day, the biggest 3-day decline in trading history, yada, yada, yada. That's just also an extreme sign of volatility that we have so many basically trading quote unquote records being broken. And I think that this volatility will definitely continue under this administration.
I think not only because, as you said, it's definitely not the end. I saw like there's a lot of celebratory action, and I think that's a function of the stress that people have been under over the last 7 days, feeling like they needed to like a big exhale. We're up now, maybe things are better. And it's like, yes, they are better than they were yesterday, but as you say, a lot of stuff is still up in the air. And I guess the conversation we were having yesterday morning, I think, is the crucial thing, where I don't know how serious they ever were with really going to taking the whole of Europe to task, or the whole of the rest of the world to task. For me, the absolute focus, the laser focus, is China. When I was reading all of that stuff independently yesterday before the show, it felt increasingly clear to me that this is just all out war on China, frankly. I know that there are different ways that you can fight wars, and there's different levels, and it's all a scale of how you want to take action against people. But for me, it was like, right, this is the only thing that you really need to focus on. Everything pales in comparison to this battle, especially when you place it in the context of, one global power on the decline, one on the ascent, and these two powers kind of colliding here. And so I think that's just where my main focus is now, and thinking through what the implications are for that power dynamic and how those two people are going to work itself out. I think the rest of the stuff's going to get worked out, in my opinion, although, as you say, there's no guarantees with this administration. But that's where my core focus is. Do you have any thoughts in the China direction, just zooming in on what we believe to be the most important thing before maybe talking about a couple of the other aspects?
Yeah, I think definitely that the China-US conflict is the most important thing in that. I don't think that what the EU will do or won't do, or how tariffs in the EU will shape or won't shape out, is going to be relevant in the long run. Ultimately, you have the global fight for hegemony when it comes to all things AI. We've seen the market shock with DeepSeek and how that has been presented to be the best AI model and so close to AGI, yada, 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 and how that has impacted markets. You have this race, you have the race for technological dominance, you have the race for graduates who have studied any of the STEM classes, basically all of the scientists. When I think now the majority is coming out of China, is coming out of India. So it's a fight for technological dominance, for AI data dominance. It's a fight for knowledge, and that now has a trade war component to it as well. And resources, we spoke about the rare earth metals, a part of that as well. So it's basically it's it's a power war on all fronts, and trade wars and the tariffs are just one aspect of that we are seeing right now, basically.
Okay, so I think that's clearly where our attention is going. That's where the focus is. What did you think more on the communication side then, and just trying to prepare ourselves for how things are going to be under this administration? I saw a number of people with some funny quote tweets or whatever on top of official White House or Trump communications. For example, this one from Newsy Johnson, I'm sharing my screen, Ledge. On top of the capitalized tweet, "Do not retaliate and you will be rewarded." There was a tweet saying, "Devs posting the airdrop criteria." There's all kinds of the official White House is tweeting in quite comical ways. I think there was also a tweet from the official White House account saying, "Let him cook."
Yeah,
with a picture of the president. Pretty hilarious, to be honest. I don't know that. And then I think one of the things that the media picked up on was the fact that Trump, in yesterday morning, right? Basically, he tweeted literally today, like I can't remember what the literal tweet was, but he said bye. In the morning, he said bye. And then in the evening, he delayed the tariffs on the rest of the world, excluding China, and gave them this 3-month grace period. I mean, you were saying you think that that's just going to continue. Do you think, what do you think about that? Open question.
Honest answer, I think it works. I think it's that communication style I think it's really smart. Like, I'm obviously not a big fan of this tariff war and threats that go around, and how basically you can move the entire global market up and down by 10% over the course of a couple of days. And I find that very annoying, to say the least. But then I see the "let him cook" post by the White House. I see the other White House post, let me bring it up on screen, on an executive order to end overregulation on water pressure, with the caption being "Make America's showers great again." I have to laugh when I see that. And that is just very, very good communication to do like that, where all the other governments around the world take themselves very, very seriously. And it is like a breath of fresh air. And we talk about it on the show, and it's entertaining. And I do think that's a smart communication strategy to go like that. And it really shows that they understand how social media works. And at the same time, China's playing the same game, right? We said on the show, you had iShowSpeed touring China and showing very, very futuristic cars there. This morning, there was a video trending showing you a drone shot of the city scape of, I think it was Shanghai at night. So China is playing that social media game, obviously, as well. And so does the US, and specifically the US administration. And as much as I don't like the policies and the way how, the tariffs have been negotiated and been turned on and off, there was also this other funny meme from, oh my God, blanking. What is the show on Netflix with the games, the Korean one?
Squid Games.
Squid Games, yeah. So you have this like green light, red light game, and the caption was like "tariffs on, tariffs off." It's an effective communication. Like, as much as I don't like the content in terms of the policies, the comms are working, entertaining, and go viral every time.
Yeah, I got to say, making American showers great again did take some of the edge off at the end of the day yesterday, after everyone had gone through what they went through. Funky, your hand was raised. What's your comment here specifically on the China aspect?
Before I say anything about China, just quick, my master bedroom, the bathroom, has the best shower ever. I hate going to any place on earth because the shower pressure and the water is so good. So there is something to be said about that. But I wanted to return to something I said a couple weeks ago on the show, that I think the biggest thing that they could hold over our heads, China, if Bitcoin continues to become so strategically important, like you saw the Vanek post, I think it did a good job with that, be kind of saying, They didn't quite confirm that trade was happening with Bitcoin. But as we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, we're trying to get all this hash rate power here in the United States from various companies. China makes all the miners. Like 99% of the ASIC chips that are in Bitmain miners all come from mainland China. You guys know the history of Bitcoin, of course. At one point, they were the ones that had all the dominant hash rate power. And that could be the biggest thing that they could do to hurt the US, knowing like, oh, you care about Bitcoin? Well, guess what? No more miners. What would that do? That's got me thinking a lot.
Interesting. Maybe just buy all of it. Forget the mining. Just buy everything that you can. Open market. That's my solution.
Controlling the network is important, right? Like that is,
Of course, yes.
you want something globally decentralized. So I mean, that's really the big scare there.
Yep. Fair point. Okay, I think I wanted to ask one more question on this, and it was to do with I thought I was sharing a tinfoil hat theory yesterday. I can see Overarch in the YouTube comments got a tinfoil hat on to do with something China, COVID, Trump still holding a grudge from China causing COVID that cost him the previous election. Maybe wouldn't put it past this guy. But the one that I wanted to go towards was this one where, gosh, where is it? It's okay, I might just have to paraphrase it because I can't find the person who I followed specifically when I read it. I really want to find it. What's going on, Ledge? Have you heard anything about this idea that China want to, I'm just going to keep looking for it. China want to have a gold-backed currency. They don't want to be on the dollar, right?
All the gold silver thingy that we talked about.
Yeah. So okay,
Yeah.
but there's two aspects to it. One, the history supposedly around it is that China were late to gold because they spent a bunch of time buying silver. Everything was backed by gold in the end, and so they were far behind. They've then started accumulating gold. Now they would love to have a current. Now that the US currency is, under threat, and arguably even the US don't necessarily even want it to be the reserve currency in the way that it's always been. They would love for it to be backed by gold because they've got a great set of gold reserves. The US don't want that though because they're on to the next thing, arguably, which is Bitcoin. And it wasn't just this post that you're sharing on the screen, which was suggesting that. There was also someone from the Founders Fund, which is Peter Thiel's fund, who tweeted this yesterday. I'm going to share my screen. I have found it. Just putting this out there. I don't know the answer to this. I know one anecdote about it, but then I just want to put this out there. Said critical infra like hospitals and schools are being built by China in South America and Africa. To pay all these employees, there's a push to launch a digital currency backed by gold. The only company helping to resist against the de-dollarization at the grassroots level is Tether. Paolo from Tether is quoted as saying this. They said, Tether is the last stronghold before a de-dollarization push. We approach distribution by building physical infra like kiosks in villages in Africa, bodegas in South America, powered by USDT. Apart from McDonald's, there is not much US infra presence here. My only anecdote for this is when I've spent time in Kenya before and Uganda, it is obvious that a lot of the infra is being built by China. I know as well that in the top of Asia, or in South Asia as well, China is signing all kinds of deals with people, and I don't know the terms of them or what's included in it. But in the same way that the West was once at the forefront of, some would say, well, on the one hand, colonizing places and therefore helping countries to industrialize or building the infrastructure. Obviously, a bunch of arguments around the colonial aspects of that. But now it seems to be, as they have departed, the Chinese have kind of stepped in to that role, maybe under very different terms, but they are the people who are kind of assisting with building out the countries in the way that might be helpful to those countries. Any thoughts on that, Legendary? It's just the second time I've read that. I think it's very relevant to the general conversation of the reserve currency as we debate if the dollar is less that now, because that isn't even what the US government need it to be. Where does it go in the future, if it goes anywhere? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I think, okay, there's two narratives there. So one is like China wants gold as a reserve currency, the US wants Bitcoin. And then there's the other thing, which you have said on the investments in other Asian countries, in African countries, and how those deals are structured. I think to the second part that revolves around those investments, that is very much true. Like, I very much agree with what you've been saying there. And we've also been seeing, like, just even yesterday, that Russia and China settled energy deals in BTC. And I also think that the Chinese yuan and other Asian as well as African currencies might be just more strongly correlated to one another if there's like a heavy dependency on investment flows. That's just, off the top of my dome. Don't have any data to back that up right now. But I think this is a narrative that I can get behind. The other thing, that China wants a gold-backed reserve currency because they've been accumulating gold since 1933. I just don't see that. Like, the United States hold 198k BTC. China holds 194k BTC. They just, quote unquote, hold 4,000 Bitcoin less. Funky just spoke to the relevance of BTC miners being in China. If anything, they are in a very, very strong position. They are mining. They have accumulated a lot of BTC themselves. And yes, they have banned Bitcoin 22 times for Chinese people because they don't want maybe all of them to control the government strategy with BTC, but they're certainly not ignoring that. And they're certainly not, in my opinion, pushing for a gold-backed reserve currency.
Okay. Interesting. Appreciate the thoughts. Funky, where's it going? Dollar, gold, Bitcoin? I suspect you are biased, but how do you like layer that in with this conversation about the China's kind of building out and assisting the rest of the world and potential de-dollarization?
Not so much on the de-dollarization and the gold-backed currency. Of course I would prefer a Bitcoin-backed currency, right? But as an AP Human Geography teacher for many years, this was something I was talking about with my students, how aggressively China was doing outreach in and I hate it, it's a pejorative term to say third world countries, developing nations, right? And in particular, Africa. Now, if Kusho's up on stage, I don't want to put him on blast or see if he wants to step up and chime in here, but Africa, I think, is going to be an absolute economic powerhouse post 2050. They have so many young people who are hungry to get in on the world economy, to use their skills. And China has been there probably at this point for the last 2 decades, building out tons of infra, helping African countries. So I think that this is something that we maybe have lost sight of, because to your point, after World War II, that's what the US did. That's what Western Europe did, going into countries in the 50s and 60s, helping them advance. But then they just kind of let it slide in the 80s, 90s. And China has stepped in a big way. And I think you can't ignore that as they continue to ascend on the world stage.
I like it. I think that speaks to very much the anecdotes that I've heard. But as you said, we've got Kusho up on stage with us. In the YouTube comments, Kusho, you just shared there's a lot of loans taken by Nigeria and other African countries, perhaps from China, for infrastructure development that still gets contracted to these Chinese companies. Are you able to speak to that a little bit more? Good to have you up on stage with us, my friend, after quite a while.
GM, it's been a while. As far as I know, Nigeria in particular has gotten a lot of loans from China, as I said. As far as helping us with infrastructure, it's not like it's some kind of charity project where they're helping us. It's a thing where Nigeria keeps on piling on the debt that we already have to China. And I think this is true for many other African countries as well. So it's kind of like China is more or less positioning for being in some kind of position where they hold leverage over like a couple of African countries at the same time. not only just for the sake of having leverage, but also for the sake of resources that they can then begin to export from African countries, in addition to the talent that they are exporting as well. So we're also seeing countries like South Africa, for example, have multiple partnerships on an educational level, just because they start to get exchange programs, students coming to China, students from China going to South Africa, and they are kind of encouraging this mix between China and many other African countries in different ways, in different dimensions. And I think the context is different for Nigeria as it is for other countries. But more or less, it's more or less the strategic objective of China to kind of like forge different kinds of relationships within Africa. Some for talent, some for resources, and that's kind of what I think about it.
Love it. Appreciate the insight from Nigeria, Kusho. Super awesome to be able to get that just off the fly. So I appreciate you kind of coming in there. One piece of news that this immediately reminded me of is this piece of these adverts on legacy media websites. Absolutely useless. That is why we hate legacy media. Okay, kind of share my screen. I don't know if you guys saw this where, okay, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is the worst thing in the world, potentially. Okay, I can't even share the screen. How is anyone supposed to read an article if you can't look at it because so many things pop up? Anyway, I've Googled it. You can search Sri Lankan port taken over by China. And when you search Sri Lankan port, Google actually starts filling it in for you and guesses that you're trying to ask about the port that was taken over by China. If you Google that in 2018, I remember this. And so, you know, this is the way these agreements take place. You sign some type of agreement for loans with China. If you're not able to pay them back, they're taking like collateral, and collateral sometimes being land and like real life economic places in these locations. So the Sri Lankan port that was handed over to China to pay off debt was called Hambantota Port, was signed over to Beijing on a 99-year lease because Sri Lanka could not repay Chinese loans it took out to build the port. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in that respect. Kusho, I just want to come back to you as your hand is raised. Did I get that wrong? I can't get into the article to read the proper details, but that's where my mind went. What did you want to say?
So what I wanted to add to that was like there's been a lot of news from parts of Nigeria that produce solid minerals that a lot of Chinese experts have been coming in and doing a lot of unregulated mining from different parts of the country. So this might be as a result of that. There might be some bad deals and some backstory to that, but yeah, just wanted to add a bit of that.
Interesting. Interesting stuff. Appreciate the additional context, Kusho. Ledge, final comments. I know we had some other stuff to talk about today, but I think we've gone off on an interesting tangent, which has been a good conversation. Final takes, whether that's to do with tariffs, Trump, China. Where do you want to go with it?
Yeah, a little story for you. You'll like this one if you like the port story and why it pays off to have money when everyone else is searching for money and is searching for cash and liquidity. So the year is 2008, right in the financial crisis. Chicago is struggling massively with the budget. And what they did do, they sold their parking meter revenue to the UAE, to investors from the UAE for $1 billion as a deal structured for 75 years. So basically they said, we're going to forego all parking meter revenue for the next 75 years, and you guys give us $1 billion in cash. And they did so. And I revisited recently this investment because I want to see how it does. They're already up 500 mil on that, and they still have 60 years to go in the deal.
My God. Yeah, being it just shows how, okay, don't want to get too negative, but a lot of these Middle Eastern funds, or whether it's Eastern funds, or actually sometimes American funds too, just coming into Europe and other places and just snapping things up because people seem to be so hard up for cash. As you say, it's pretty important to be able to be in that cash rich position sometimes. And if you're not, you can just be vulnerable to making these types of decisions where, you know, it sounds like a terrible, terrible trade, but interesting story. Hope that was interesting for you guys too. As usual, I think we kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but you know, we're trying to make sense of all of this stuff that is going on. Pretty wild market. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it interesting. As usual, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X Video, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify podcast too. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Take care. Thanks to all our contributors. We had Legendary in the co-host seat, Funky and Kusho up with us today as well. They were awesome. You were awesome. Have a lovely day. Take care, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.